are so many men leaving the political left? This isn't just a passing trend, it's a cultural shift that's worth understanding. And no, this isn't some anti-left hit piece. Instead, we're here to explore the factors driving this movement and unpack what it means for society as a whole. Whether you lean left, right, or somewhere in between, stick around because this affects us all. Let's start with the basics. For decades, the left was seen as the champion of working class interests, free speech, and a sense of unity. But in recent years, many men feel like the left has shifted away from these principles. They see an increasing focus on identity politics and cultural issues that frankly can feel divisive. Take masculinity, for example. While discussions about toxic masculinity have merit, some men feel like the left's rhetoric frames masculinity itself as inherently problematic. For men who value traits like strength, leadership, and independence, this can feel alienating. Instead of fostering dialogue, it can sometimes come across as blame or dismissal. Another reason men are stepping away from the left is economics. Historically, the left has been a strong voice for working class struggles, but today, many working class men feel ignored. Policies often prioritize social justice issues over economic ones, which can leave men in blue-collar jobs wondering, where do I fit into this? In contrast, some argue the right is addressing these economic concerns more directly, focusing on issues like job creation, trade policies, and support for industries like manufacturing and energy. Whether or not you agree with their solutions, it's clear that this messaging is resonating with men who feel left out of the current political discourse. Cancel culture is another big factor. Many men feel the left has become overly punitive when it comes to differing opinions, whether it's a poorly worded tweet from a decade ago or a controversial viewpoint. The fear of being cancelled looms large. For a lot of guys, this creates a sense of walking on eggshells. They don't feel like they can openly share their thoughts without risking social backlash. Compare this to the right, which often markets itself as the defender of free speech and open debate, and you start to see why some men are making the switch. Let's talk about how men are portrayed in the media. In many left-leaning spaces, men, particularly straight, white men, are often depicted as villains or the cause of societal problems. Now, no one's saying we shouldn't examine privilege or historical injustices, but if you're constantly told you're the bad guy, it's only natural to push back. Meanwhile, conservative outlets are presenting an alternative narrative, one where men are encouraged to embrace their roles as providers, protectors, and leaders. This more traditional framing may not resonate with everyone, but for men who feel unappreciated, it can be appealing. Lastly, we can't ignore the role of influencers and media personalities in shaping this trend. Figures like Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, and even Andrew Tate, controversial as he may be, have tapped into a growing discontent among men. They address topics like personal responsibility, discipline, and the challenges of modern masculinity. While these figures have their critics, they're filling a void that many men feel exists in left-leaning spaces. They're talking directly to men about issues that matter to them, from mental health to financial success, often in ways that feel empowering rather than critical. So, what does all this tell us? The exodus of men from the left isn't just about politics. It's about culture, identity, and the search for belonging. Whether you agree or disagree with their reasons, it's crucial to listen and understand. If the left wants to win back these men, it'll need to re-engage with issues like economic fairness, free speech, and positive representations of masculinity. And for those on the right, the challenge is to offer real solutions, rather than just rhetoric. Ultimately, this shift is a wake-up call for all of us to create a society where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued.
The alienation isn't just happening to everyday men. It's visible among some high-profile figures in politics and media. Leaders like Andrew Yang, Senator Joe Manchin, Andrew Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, and Eric Adams have all, in their own ways, found themselves at odds with the political left. Let's start with Andrew Yang. Despite running a campaign focused on bold, forward-thinking ideas like universal basic income, Yang has often spoken about feeling dismissed or sidelined by the Democratic establishment. His decision to leave the party and form the Forward Party underscores the frustration of those who feel the left is becoming too rigid and insular in its approach to policy and inclusion. Then there's Senator Joe Manchin. Representing a largely conservative state like West Virginia, Manchin's centrist positions have often made him a target of progressive criticism. Whether it's his stance on energy policies or his reluctance to support sweeping spending bills, Manchin embodies the struggle of balancing pragmatic governance with ideological purity, a challenge that resonates with many working-class men who feel similarly torn. Andrew Cuomo's fall from grace is another example. While his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic brought him national acclaim for a time, his subsequent scandals led to a swift and public downfall. Many argue that the left was quick to distance itself, raising questions about loyalty and due process. Similarly, his brother Chris Cuomo faced backlash and was ousted from CNN after allegations of professional misconduct, a move that left some questioning whether accountability is applied evenly across the political spectrum. Lastly, we have Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York City. As a former police officer and advocate for public safety, Adams has clashed with progressive activists over issues like policing and crime. While he aligns with the left on many social policies, his more moderate stance on law enforcement has often left him politically isolated. Adams represents men who feel stuck between the extremes of left and right, trying to navigate a path that reflects their lived realities. These figures highlight a broader issue: the left's difficulty in accommodating diverse viewpoints within its ranks. For men who value individuality and pragmatic solutions over ideological conformity, this can feel like yet another reason to step away.